Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings. So we are on the last book of the Song of the Lioness Quartet, and this Lioness Rampant is a very, very climaxy kind of book. The story of this book is basically we've picked up after Alanna's year with the Vizier out in the desert, and she's sort of at loose ends, because the thing is that, during her years of training, first as a page, then as a squire, that was, that was a thing to do, a thing to work towards, a target, something specific that she was working at. For her first year as a knight, that year that she spent out in the deserts with the Vizier, that was specifically because A, she wanted to be warm, and B, she was just kind of adventuring when she fell into being a shaman for the Bloody Hawk. And the thing is that she was thus a shaman. She had a particular job that she had to do. She had to train her students. She had to deal with all the various things that came up. And so, again, she had a specific thing to do. After she had gone on her little trip for the headman of the tribe, because he had asked her to check on a friend of his, and she came back, and so on and so forth, her two students are now full shamans. They are now able to take on the care of the tribe. They don't need her to do that anymore. She's only one more sword for the tribe if they get attacked by hillmen. She's basically kind of at loose ends. And while being with the Vizier for that year put off her having to find something to do, she's all of a sudden a knight without anything happening. She isn't interested in going back and sitting in either of the two fiefdoms that she could, because of course she has the one that she and her twin brother Tom have inherited from their father. She could go back to Trevon, but she doesn't want to. It's not why she became a knight. She could go back to Tortall, to the palace, but again, there are a lot of people who don't think very well of her because she is a woman who has become a knight, and, so she doesn't really have anything to go back to there, per se, or at least that's how she feels, and that means that she's kind of spinning at loose ends. So, Hakim gives her this, not Hakim, whatever the name of the headman of the Bloody Hawk is, I don't remember. He gives her this map and tells her, and, she goes to get it translated, and it turns out that this is a map to the Dominion Jewel. And the Dominion Jewel is a mythical, it's a sort of a mythical who's-it, a MacGuffin thing, that, grants superpowers to natural leaders. And of course, it's one of those interesting things where it is, of course, neither good nor bad. It's just if somebody is a natural leader and they get a hold of this thing, it will give them a boost. If they don't have magic, it'll give them luck. And if they do have magic, then they can use it to do all kinds of exciting things, like as Jonathan does at the just barely crowned King Jonathan does at the end of the book, which is keep an earthquake from literally shattering his country. The point is, though, that getting the Dominion Jewel is something that provides Alanna kind of a twofold thing. One, it gives her a specific adventurous, knightly kind of exploit thing to aim for. And second, it's something that if she comes back to Tortall with the Dominion Jewel, nobody can look at her and say, you don't deserve to be a knight, you don't deserve to be here, because somebody who has gone on a quest for something like that has brought back something so valuable to the kingdom that you can't, that it's something that is so valuable to the kingdom that you can't, like, naysay her when it comes to that. Or at the very least, you can naysay her, but you have to do it real quiet. So Alanna sets out on that, and she, along the way, finds, among other things, her next major romance, because we've had the romance during the course of the second book in The Hand of the Goddess, where Alanna winds up getting into a relationship with Prince Jonathan. As one of the small number of men who actually knows her secret, as a very attractive man, as someone who she is very close friends with, who she is in constant contact with, and so on and so forth. Them winding up together is very, very logical, among other things. The other thing, of course, was there's George, who the romance with George is hinted at and teased at throughout Hand of the Goddess, because George is enough years older than Alanna that there are those who feel it's a little bit awkward. Me, I never really worried about that, because I tend to take if they're one of the good guys, you should just, if they're supposed to be one of the good guys, you should approach this from the best possible angle for, not giving myself a headache. I don't analyze literature. I say, I analyze literature in the direction of saying, what's the best possible interpretation of somebody's actions? If we are supposed to like them, what's the best possible interpretation of their actions? Unless that person is Xander Harris, but we're not talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Anyways, neither here nor there. George is the second romance, and while he sort of, tells Alanna that he likes her and says, we get married as young as 15 in the city, and things like that, he and Alanna don't get together until the third book, until Woman Who Rides Like a Man. In no small part, of course, because Jonathan got there first, but also because Alanna had a bit of a class hang-up. A like must marry like, and she is a noblewoman. She's from a wholly different class than George, and she is, frankly, concerned about the class difference, which, despite what, romance novels and whatnot would like to have you think, is actually a genuine problem. Bloodlines in pseudo-medieval places like this are a serious issue. Anyways, but in the third book, what happens is that Jonathan basically, he is a prince, he's got a sense of entitlement a mile wide, and that finally kicks into high gear, and he basically pulls on Alanna in the third book, I thought all women say they need more time when they're getting married. Yes is an inevitable answer. And Alanna, who was saying, I really am not sure, I need more time to think about this, they wind up having a really ugly fight and break up, and Jonathan winds up calling her unwomanly, and she winds up calling him a self-centered bastard, and so that's the end of that relationship. I mean, they worked it out by the end of this book, because in this book, among other things, at the end of the book, Jonathan winds up asking her at the end of this one, so, I offered to marry you. I don't want to go back on my word. And Alanna's like, we would be terrible together. We have both changed so much, and what are you talking about? And also, you're busy drawing pictures of Princess Thayet, who I have brought with me from Serain because I thought you two would be awesome together. Honestly, I almost wish that she had asked him, why are you ruining all of my efforts at setting you up with a hot girlfriend? Because Thayet is the most beautiful woman anyone has ever seen. It's like a key part of the description of Thayet that she's got black hair and pale skin and is the most beautiful woman anyone has ever seen. Anyways, the third romance is Liam Ironarm, who is a Shang warrior, and the Shang are kind of a samurai-ish group that they do a sort of a sort of a Far Eastern martial arts unarmed fighting style that is like the supremely most amazingest thing ever. So Liam Ironarm is like, you know, uh, I mean, he comes across as being described as very European, but, he's gone through the Shang training, so, I think of your favorite martial artist. He's, Jet Li or whatever. Pick your favorite one. He's a Power Ranger. Anyways, the point is that, I don't watch enough Chopsaki movies to have these things at my fingertips. Anyways, so she winds up meeting him and they have a romance, but it's a romance that falls apart because he is literally genuinely phobic of magic and she is, well, get magically gifted. She has magic, she has a lot of magic, and by this point in the series she has finally dealt with the thing, because in the first book she hated her magic and she didn't want to use it and she thought it was cheating and so on and so on. And by this book she now uses it naturally, functionally as part of who she is because it's a tool in her arsenal and she can't not use it. And it kills the relationship between them because, of course, two people can't be in a relationship together if one of them is literally terrified of some aspect of the other one's existence. If you're phobic of gymnasts and the person that you're in a relationship with is a gymnast, you can't actually be in a relationship with them because you will be terrified of them. Anyways, so the thing about this book, though, is it's very much a book of closure. It works out all of Alanna's romances and she winds up agreeing to marry George. It gives Alanna a place because she gets named King's Champion. And at the same time, though, in this book, we have the tragedy of Alanna's brother being killed. And even though he did something remarkably stupid, which was entirely his fault, because bringing people back from the dead is always a bad idea. I think there may have been one time when it wasn't a bad idea in a work of fiction, and I can't think of that one time. But basically, bringing people back from the dead is 99.999% of the time a bad idea. And he brought Duke Roger, the villain of the first two books, back from the dead, and Alanna has to kill him again. And Faithful, the cat who has been with her since in the start of In the Hand of the Goddess, who is all of the snark and all of the catliness, and who at one point in this book informs Alanna that you are one of the fulcrums upon which the universe turns. Don't mess it up. I have a reputation to maintain. And we know that, among other things, he has to have been some kind of a divine guide. Because, for one thing, the mother goddess constantly talks to him and pulls him aside and has conversations with, like, over and over again. She talks to him about stuff. But also, it's that moment when Josiane of the Copper Isles, who has been working with Roger, kills Faithful, that she takes the cat and slams him into the ground and stomps on him. And Faithful's last words are, "Time to go home," which is both touching and, sad, and I suspect speaks to him having been a divine who's it, instead of him doing what a lot of us would do if we got stomped on, which was, "Screw you, how dare you." Also, we all miss Faithful because Faithful is the best. Anyways, so this is a rip-roaring conclusion to this tetralogy, and it's really epic, and I love the epic nature of the ending of this. So the next time we are on talking about Tamora Pierce, we will be on the next tetralogy, and I will talk about them when we get to it. So that's everything I'm going to say about Lioness Rampant, and I will see you all next week.